it's very important to have a checklist, and this is a checklist that's in collecting old writing equipment, but it's also in pen repair. And the checklist is...
Let's just show the front of the book.
I want to show that as well.
Oh, it's a 12-inch. That's not normal.
Okay. So you must go through it systematically. Cap, clip, barrel, cap threads, cap lip, for cracks, shortened, the tassie, clip screw, barrel, lever, the pump, blind cap, threads, inner cap, metal, dents, engraving, imprint, brassing, chew marks, distortion, discoloration, nib, extremely important, cracks, iridium, imprint, correct nib, correct feed, section, shell. Now that's a list that you must go over and check, and it is so important that you do that. And once you've done that, you will have actually, in your own mind, found out where there are some problems. But whatever you do, don't try and fill it or test the lever by filling it. Whatever you do, don't unscrew it if it's too tight. You've got to be patient and take it apart so nothing gets broken during the dismantling. The dismantling is your first stage, and you won't really know what's going to have to be done to the pen before you actually take it apart. So having done that, right, sit down, have a cup of tea. Now, then get back to dismantling.
So what tools do we actually need?
Right, dismantling depends always on the pen. So the first thing is, it's much better if you know what's inside it. You know, you wouldn't like a doctor to go and get inside you unless you actually he knew what he was doing. And he's had a lot of teaching, and most of it's from books. And it's the books and the manuals that will give you the information as to what is inside the pen. The main manuals for the main makers, like Parker, Schaefer, etc., they're all available. You can get them. And these are quite expensive, but this is an example of the Parker manual. And they've been updated by Parker, the company, during the time that most of the pens that you will be faced with were being made. The other company is Schaefer, right? That's there. Waterman, who are the other major company, do not have a manual. Neither does Montblanc, and neither do the majority of the other companies.
Can you get them online?
You can get these online, but at a price. What would be much better is if you join a club like the Writing Equipment Society in this country, or the Pen Collectors Association in the US, and they have copies of all these manuals, and you will be able to get facsimiles, or I think in the UK now almost all of these manuals are online if you are a member of the Writing Equipment Society. So well worth joining just for that access. On the other hand, if you want to have everything together and easily available, then naturally I would recommend Pen Repair, which is still extremely good value for money, considering that you will have to probably pay, or you would pay if you purchased the manuals, about £25 to £30 each. You can get a copy of Pen Repair for £25 from NJV, or you can go for a copy from the Writing Equipment Society for maybe a little bit more. But nevertheless, you will have access to all the other data there. But well worth it, and I would say this of course, but the thing is that we've sold over 6,000 copies of this book worldwide, and
So this is one you've written?
this is one that myself and Lawrence Oldfield have written, and we wrote it in 2006 as the first edition. Too many, not pen mistakes, but too many spelling mistakes. The second edition was a little bit better, the third edition was pretty good, but the fourth edition we've decided is as good as it gets, and we don't intend to write a fifth edition. But it is still regarded as one of the best books. But there are other people who produce information as well. But it's very important that you actually do have information about what is inside the pens, and that is exactly what you're getting when you actually get a list of all the pens that are covered in this particular book. That's the end of the promotion there, if you like, but the most important thing is you've got to know what's inside before you decide how you're going to take the thing apart. And once you've found that out, then you will need tools in order to do that.
So were you going to show us some of them?
Yeah. The first thing you're going to do is to take the cap off the pen with the nib. This is a very, very common 1970s pen. It's a golden platinum, right? Steel nib. It was a wonderful school pen. I would say most of the kids had a golden platinum, and then what you've got to do is take it apart. It's come apart there. The next thing that you have to have if you're repairing is one of these. If you don't, you'll get into lots of trouble, because as you're taking the pen apart, you're going to have individual bits, and if you're just putting it on a table where it can roll off, or you're doing 2 or 3 pens, you'll get the parts mixed up. That pen with trays in, you put the parts into it, right, so that they're there and you don't lose them. Then this is so stiff to then unscrew what they call the section. So what do you need? You need a pair of pliers, but a special pair of pliers. Let me show you what's special about them.
Got rubber on them.
This is rubber, but this is curved metal underneath, right, okay? So that grips the section, right? But this one is really, really tight, and it's not going to move. And there are many that are like this. So you have 2 alternatives. I'm going to show you the 2 electrical alternatives. The first is this. Looks big.
So a deep pen fryer.
It is an ultrasonic bath, right? You can buy these for jewellery. They're just as good as this one. This is a heavy duty one, because when I was professionally repairing, I was doing a lot of pens, and it has a good transducer that gives you, but you fill it with water, you get a support in it, you make sure that they stand upright, and you can sometimes have to leave this, not this working, but soaking. You might have to leave it even for 1 or 2 days. I've left pens for weeks.
So what's in there, Jim?
This is just water.
It's water, yeah.
You can put a little bit of detergent in, but don't put anything else. You definitely don't need anything like caustic soda or baking powder or anything like that. You don't want to put anything that might change the colour of a plastic, and therefore water's the best. It will generate a bit of heat. Don't put hot water in. I don't like hot water with pens. But the point is that that's the first. The second is this. This is a heat gun. Now, the great thing about this is you can just put it down and then don't put it on paint stripper mode, otherwise it'll melt. But you turn your pen like this and that will expand the plastic gently. Now,
So they're like a paint stripper, aren't they?
this is a paint stripper, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can do it with a hairdryer. A hairdryer is warm enough to actually, and probably better. It's just that for me, I've always liked that it was quicker, but I was doing it and got very used to, doing it. You can actually, if you're not careful, you can definitely melt the plastic. You don't want to do that. But once you've actually warmed it, then go back to the pliers and then we'll get that off somehow. And it's coming, no problems at all. Just takes time. That's it. And it's left the residue inside. Now I know from experience that what is in there is just a rubber tube, right, in parts. So now I've got to actually get that out. But I will examine the barrel carefully to see if there's any chips on it. And then, this is the important point, the lever. Now the lever will not work. Yes, it will work. Inside there is a pressure bar. That one is working well, right? So all I have to do is to get out the residue there by poking it, and I need a spatula, and I just poke in there and pull it out. That's actually, I've found out what the main problem is as far as this pen is concerned.
So is that ink residue inside, is it?
The ink is inside, the sac is inside. Just see if I can, I haven't got one here, I should have. Yeah, you see that's one where the sac is, just, yeah. I'll use this one actually. Right. This, I've just taken another pen out of there, which is again a Continental pen. Now this is one that screws off very easily, and inside you will see that it has a pressure unit which is not like the lever, right? And this pressure unit is on the section which is here, but unfortunately there is no sac. So we now know immediately, and I would suggest you are making notes with respect to each part of the pen as you go around it, and if it's okay, tick it, and if it isn't, then you write it down against your checklist, so that you know exactly what you've got to do when you finish taking the whole thing apart. The caps themselves are not often a problem. They're more a problem with the plastic caps that were mainly used before 1940. But after about 1945, an awful lot of the pens had metal caps, which were more robust. One thing that may be interesting for you. Sorry, I do want to show something.
Because you could put the pen in there to hold it and then twist it with your guts.
I'll use this. This is actually, I love this because I actually use it an awful lot.
It's like a thumb screw.
No, I made it.
This can alternate as a torture device.
It's just a device.
Yeah.
For that, but I put
different
all
sizes.
those. One of the important things that you do when you this is interesting. Okay. We've done two-part dismantling, but let me go now into a more elaborate situation, and we've got in this case this is an Eversharp pen, and we want to take it apart just to see, and this time we're lucky, it's just come apart very nicely, and the reason that we have a problem is there is no sack in there. So but it also, when I get my very important unit out, which is the loop, it is absolutely vital that you have a very, very good eyeglass. Absolutely essential. And they're not very expensive, because you want to look very carefully at the nib, and you want to look at particularly the end, the iridium, and see, and it looks as if that's quite a little bit damaged, so we've either got to do something with the nib or put a new nib in. So the first thing now is to get this nib out. So put the barrel on the tray so you don't lose it, and the cap has also gone into the tray, right? And we now have to try and get the nib out. So the first thing we want to do is we want to use a number of supports. You can use a knocking block, which...
That's a good name, isn't it? A nib knocking block?
A knocking block, yes, I suppose it is. It's also for tube sizes, for diameters of... This is an interesting piece, because it is also, as well as a knocking block, it is also can be used to measure the gauges of the sacks in diameter terms, and they're usually numbered, and it was in 64ths of an inch actually, but they're normally called in 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, but that's in 64ths of the diameter of the sack, and we'll come on to that in a minute or two. So the first thing now, we can put this onto a support, any support that we have a clearance here, and this is a very, very handy vise that can be used for a number of purposes, as you will find out later on. Right, so we're going to use the knocking block. We could actually just use the holes in there, but I prefer to do this with this. We put the, can you see this? We're putting the section with the nib and the feed in there. We've got to knock the feed and nib out, and we don't want to damage it, so we're going to now take this and just tap it with a metal rod to get the nib out. That's fine. Okay, you can see the hammering going on. This has now knocked the feed out. The nib can be taken out, and look at it. Okay, we're going to replace that with a new nib. The feed is here. It's all very dirty, so we want to wash that, make sure that the channel is clean, and we're now going to put that feed back into the section with a new nib. The next stage now is to examine the new nib. Everything's fine, good, the iridium is good, the gap is good, and we're now going to put it with the section, with the feed that we've cleaned. And what is now important is to make sure that the feed is in the right position on the nib. That is extremely important with pen repair, because if it's too far down it will write dry, if it's too far up it will write too wet. There is only one position, it's clearly defined for you in pen repair in the book, and you just have to have it so that you can just see the metal on the edge That's the right position, and then that now goes into the thing. And now it's stiff, so we've got to find some way of getting it into the right depth. We don't want to damage the nib, and this is where this is now going to be your saviour. What you do is, on one of these areas which are all narrow, we're going to put the feed and the nib. There is a curved section so it won't be damaged, and we're going to tap it until it gets into the right position in the section. So let's find the right space. There we go. Okay. We're just getting it adjusted. You can now see that we've got it positioned in there. So what we've got to do is we're going to tap it. And now that should be in the right position. There it is, right in the right position. The next stage is to cut a sack to the right length, and we want to be able to do that. We need a long sack, and we will measure it, and it comes to 1.5 inches. This sack has now been cut, and we've got to put it onto the end of the section. And at this point now we have to actually glue this sack, so we will put shellac on there and then push that down so that the shellac will set. I don't have any shellac at the moment, but that
makes it solid.
Yeah, and therefore it's
Yeah.
it's now ready to be put back. And you go directly to your tray for where you put that, so you know where it is. Right? We would have checked to see that the lever is working, which it is, and the inside. And it just pushes back on. There you are. The pen is actually re-nibbed. It's got a new sack on it, and you can actually send that back to the owner or sell it, whichever you wish.
Fixed. Good.
Okay.
And you're now covered.
You're gonna have to
And you need a
edit.
bath.
You're gonna have to edit that.
You need one of them. You can dip your hands in that.
Yeah, absolutely straight. Well, I do actually. That's the way. I mean, you know, if I'd known I was going to do that, I could have. We
No,
could have
that's
much
fine.
smoother, but